Hey, what's going on? David Avalon here with Robert Drysdale for another episode of Breaking the Guard. We're fresh off the ADCC 2019 World Championships, and me and Rob haven't had a chance to talk to each other yet, so this will be our first time together.
Very genuine assessment. There was no it was such a rush after. We were planning to do this in California right after the show was over, but it was impossible. Way too much going on. But here we are.
Absolutely. So I guess we should start off with the thing that's freshest in my head, which is the Absolute Division, and go backwards because the Absolute Division was amazing, right?
Yes.
A lot of fantastic fights. I think the final kind of fizzled out, but I think the opening rounds of action were great. And I think the guy that stood out the most was obviously Lachlan Giles.
Yes.
Yeah, he's scoring 3 inverted heel hook finishes.
Because I think on it, well, regarding Lachlan, just because it's fresh on my mind, I think if you looked at that open right before it started, you would have put him on like the top 3 guys not to win kind of thing. Right. I'm not insulted by that when you looked at the bracket, like with all those names, right? But at the same time, that was his biggest advantage.
Yes. I felt they underestimated him.
Yes,
right?
100% they did.
So I remember I was watching with one of my friends there, and he had first round, I don't know how to say his name, Canyon? Or how you Kainan. Okay, Kainan Duarte was just a 99 kilo champion.
Yes.
Fresh off the win, biggest guy and best guy.
Which in itself was an upset for that division.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That was
we'll
another
talk about
upset.
that later.
Yeah. But and he's grappling. I'm watching. I'm like, Giles has a very good leg lock game.
Yeah.
And going against a bigger guy, that's actually an asset in his corner because bigger guys have more things to hang on to, bigger legs, less flexibility, and slower.
Yeah.
So like those all help the leg lock up, right? So I was, and it was just right after I said this, I go, man, wouldn't this be something if he catches him with a heel hook right now? What an upset.
Yeah.
And then like 10 seconds later, boom, caught him with a heel hook.
Yeah.
And I felt like from that point on, like he can keep doing this.
Yeah.
And
it was less likely to happen the second time because the surprise element in theory is out the window.
Yeah, you would think. But it seemed like everybody stepped into his open guard. Like they were standing, trying to pass with their leg in the middle. Like, man, that's a big no-no against a heavy leg locker, Which is funny because when people faced Craig Jones, like Mateus, or when they face Gordon Ryan, they do the right thing where they stay really low, head centered with their head so they can't get underneath them. But like, I guess they must have felt like, oh, he's just a little guy. What's he going to do?
That was a big part of the equation. I think it was the underestimating, first of all. He's a little guy. He's unknown.
Yeah.
I was actually walking, after the tournament, I was, walking towards my car, and like Patrick Gaudi was walking the same direction. So I started talking to him, and he goes, so do you know who that guy was? Because I know who Lachlan is, right? I've seen him compete. And Patrick goes, I had no idea. I've never seen him before. And then that was Lachlan's biggest advantage, one of his biggest advantages. Other than being exceptionally skilled in that particular area, he was very, I think he caught a lot of people off guard because A, he's smaller.
Yep.
And when you're in the heavyweight division, you're not studying the 66 kilo division.
Yeah.
Like Lachlan lost his first fight in his division. I'll tell you why. Whoever fought him, I can't remember who it was, did his homework. You prepared.
I think he fought Lucas Lepri.
Okay, which is, but regardless of it being Lucas Lepri, because we're going to talk about that too, I can guarantee you Lucas did his homework. Because when you get the bracket 3 weeks before, or who's going to be in the bracket, who's in your division, what do you do? If you're a smart competitor, what do? You
study every match.
You do your homework.
Yeah.
You think Patrick Gaudio, Muhammad Ali, and Kainan are studying anyone in the 66 kilo division?
It wouldn't make sense.
And it was just like one of those things where everything aligned for this to happen because these guys had no idea who he was. He was an up-and-coming guy, right? Relatively unknown for in at least in the competition circuit. And he has an exceptionally skilled game at something that these guys do not practice as often. And add that the fact that they were, they probably looked at him like, I'll figure this out. Like there was no game plan. It was kind of like you said, they walked in, they're standing, they were letting them put them in like single X and 50-50. And it was like, man, you don't do that with a guy that attacks the legs well. You got to play exactly like you said, like centered. So I think the underestimating factor was a really, really big one.
And the other thing is that he has a unique approach to attacking the feet that is different than what you would see from Gordon or Gary or the DDS guys, Which, and I remember I saw a video of this a while back, and I thought it was a very interesting concept where right now, like, a lot of the people are preaching control the knee line. If you control the knee line, you're going to get the leg lock, particularly when you're doing like saddle or, 411 position. But he said, no, focus on controlling the actual foot. If you can hold the foot in place, the knee line will come after that.
Yeah.
And if you see when he's grabbing, he's actually holding the toes, holding the heel. Sometimes he does like a rear naked type grip just to control the foot, not trying to submit. And you can see like in certain cases, the knee line wasn't there yet. But then when he's ready to spring, then he shot in. And
that makes perfect sense. And I remember like so many times where I thought the guy's knees were out. And I thought they thought it was out too. When Kainan, the knee was like right on the frontier, like where he's caught and he's safe. And he was right there. And you can see Kainan is almost like relaxed.
Yes.
He's fine. Oh, no, I'm not. It was like a fast tap because like I think Phil Lachlan is like, he knows exactly where that border is, right? And knows exactly when to pull the trigger. But I never thought about that, but that makes sense because you keep sucking. Craig does that too. He keeps sucking in that foot all the time.
Yes.
Eventually, the opportunity is going to present itself. And I think these guys are a little overconfident that knees on the outside all the time. I'm good. And then when it's in for that split second, you get caught. It's all over. Yeah.
And he was also using a lot of 50-50. Not, I don't believe any of the leg locks, I might be wrong, but I don't believe any of them were from the saddle. Where you're seeing a lot of people doing their work here. He was actually doing like, I think he calls it like outside sankaku. It's kind of like the 50-50, but instead of the legs being crossed over by the hip, they're being crossed over on top of the thigh there. So I think all those things made it a very different situation and the fact that the knee line was safe, I think a lot of people had false confidence that they were okay until they weren't.
Yeah.
You could even see that Gordon Ryan played a little bit with him, and he almost got caught. Like there was a few times that Giles had a good bite, and then I was thinking in my head, if I'm Gordon, I'm just gonna smash pass and arm triangle. Yeah. And then sure enough, Gordon said, "Forget this. I'm not gonna play with his feet anymore," and got the arm triangle, forced a back exposure.
Yeah, it was definitely very impressive. I think there's so many upsets this tournament and like so many standouts. I think Lachlan was definitely. I have a hard time picking between him and Tai Ruotolo. It's one of those two because what Tai did to me is very impressive.
Absolutely.
Being 16 years old, blue belt, and beating Frazato, Mantovani, and then he was beating Kennedy Maciel the whole time.
Yes.
Had him in a couple submissions.
Well, the Darce choke in the regulation was really close.
He messed up though.
There was one point where you see like Maciel's face is just turning, but like it felt like he was too deep.
Yeah, he was too deep, and he didn't roll on top. That's what you have to do because it's harder to finish when you're on bottom because you don't have gravity. So you got to walk north south, put them on their hip, and then you put them away with gravity, right? I think that, and I'm like commentating. I'm like right next to him. I'm almost want to like pull my mic out and like, bro, do this, because I was really rooting for him this fight.
Oh, so, absolutely. Yeah.
It was. I know I'm getting ahead of myself again talking about a different division, but Tai was a big surprise of the tournament. I think those two. I think they're the two standout. I think Nick Rodriguez, of course, Dante Leon. Like some of these guys really impressed me as well.
John Blank had a good performance.
John Blank had a very good. Did better than I think everyone thought he was going to do. I don't think he was expecting to do that well.
Yeah, I remember. Like I was telling you beforehand, like he's very good submission ability, but he was facing such tough opposition early on. Like I don't know if and I was surprised he got Rustam with the heel hook because I don't know if you've seen that video of Rustam. He gets caught like in an early naga in like a calf slicer that was disgusting. Like you feel like you're gonna throw up watching it, and he just eats it like nothing. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, this guy is untappable on the legs. I see him caught, but man, he got him with a nice inside heel hook, and I was like, well, everybody can be caught. Like it's just a reminder. Like I always tell people, like everybody's human. And I think I just posted this today. Yeah, like everybody's human. Like there's nobody that's superhuman that you can't tap.
No, absolutely. And Rustam's like he definitely is a hard guy to tap, but like I think. Your joints are all different. Just because you're flexible in the elbow doesn't mean you're flexible in your heels, right? So, yes, he's maybe really tough with the calf slicer. It really wasn't, feeling the calf or the knee. But the heel hook is just one of those, man. It's such a short lever.
Especially the inside heel hook. Yeah, you can't
play
around with that.
Very fast. What else? So going back to the Open, what else stood out? I thought Gordon had an easier route than Buchecha overall.
Gordon had a very easy route, but not on fault of his own. It just happened that way because First of all, nobody expected Lachlan to just
did what he did.
Do what he did. And, most people would have saw that. So Kanyan would have been the guy he would have faced again, right? Or he never faced him, so it would have been him. But then, Lachlan won that, and then he won the next one against Patrick Gaudio, right? Which is another one which you think that would have not happened.
Gaudio almost beat Gordon in the Nogi Worlds. Yeah. He was very close to beating him, so he was like a guy that could have potentially, given Gordon a run for his money. And then on the other side, he had Najimy, which that flying heel hook that Gordon did, I think we had some really nice submissions, but I think that one took the cake. That was probably the best submission of the whole tournament.
Very well executed, perfect timing, perfect technique. He didn't even have to rip it, it was already set.
And I'm a big Najimy fan, but I always said, I remember commenting for ACB with Brawl, and it was always very surprising and interesting that Edwin would walk in with a tall stance.
Yes.
And he's so confident in his counters and in his scrambling ability. And that's where the best of Edwin comes out, is when he's really tall and countering, right? But it's very unusual. But again, this is ADCC, and I don't think, and Gary being a specialist attacking the legs, it's kind of a scary thing to do, to keep your legs so exposed, But as soon as he got that clinch with Edwin, he just jumped. It was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
It was like a flying scissor, I think it was.
Yeah, just leg scissors right into an inside heel.
Beautiful. The timing, it was just like they were drilling, man. It was flawless.
Yeah, and you could tell it just totally caught Edwin off guard, because he didn't even have a chance to do anything. It was just set right from the get-go.
It was the fastest submission, or one of the fastest at least.
I would have to believe it was the
10,
fastest.
15 seconds, it felt like to me. So that was really impressive. So that really favored Gordon. Regardless of the match being real or not, there's been a lot of talk about that match being real. You contrast the other side of the bracket, Bushish and Muhammad Ali. That's a clash of time. That's a full-on wrestling match. You see those two, they're going to go that's going to wear you out, because both of them have very similar styles.
And Ali, he had to go against Tim Spriggs, and you can tell
that was a war too.
That was a war too, and tactical errors. And I want to talk about that later on, but Tim made some tactical errors that cost him the match, because he lost on a minus point because he went for a takedown and he pulled too soon.
Yeah.
And it's but he was doing really well, but
almost had him on Muhammad in a guillotine.
Yes, his guillotine was on fire that tournament.
Yeah, he caught Felipe with it.
Yeah,
and then he
caught the opening round. Who was it? Jared Dopp, I believe. Or was it not?
I think it was Jared Dopp.
Yeah,
I think it was Jared Dopp.
Yeah.
And then he almost caught Muhammad with it. It was like that.
The elbow high.
Elbow high guillotine.
Yeah.
Very impressive performance by Tim too. And then we had the final. Well, let's talk about the third place first. That was Muhammad Ali and Lachlan. We kind of talked about that already.
And I kind of knew that was going to happen.
The same heel hook.
Same heel hook. Because unfortunately, Ali doesn't really have good leg lock defense.
Yeah.
And it was just in the past ADCC where he faced Bushesha. And Bushesha just did a regular Ashigarami heel hook.
Yeah.
And Ali rolled the wrong way.
Yeah.
To me, that's someone who hasn't trained leg locks enough and doesn't even know the right way to roll.
Yeah.
So when I saw him going and locking, he's going to get caught.
And Luck was on fire. I mean, it was his day, man, for sure. It was almost too bad that he had Gordon and not the other side of the bracket, because who knows, he might have made it to the final.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting for him if he would have faced Bushesha. I don't know if he would have. I don't think Bushesha would have fell for it. Or maybe he could have.
Bushesha's more skilled when it comes to the late game than all of those other guys.
Yeah.
I think Patrick's had a lot of good, but he basically toe holds. I haven't seen him attack footlocks from 50-50, but I could be wrong. But Bushesha's very versed in the 50-50, and generally speaking, the IBJJF legal leg locks at least, right? But who knows? I mean, he was on fire. Could have been an even bigger upset. Imagine tapping Bushesha.
Yeah.
Right? And then we had the final. What are your thoughts on that final?
It was one of the most boring finals I can recall.
Yeah, I was
ever.
a little disappointed.
It was right. And to be fair, I don't think it's Gordon's fault, right? Gordon went to his butterfly guard.
Yeah.
He's trying to play his leg lock game, rightly so. Bushesha was overly cautious.
Yes, I
agree.
agree.
The point where he was very hesitant to engage. And kind of similar to the Mateus and Craig Jones match.
Yeah.
Except the difference was that Craig Jones lost patience and then got desperate and made a tactical error and gave up a point. Whereas Gordon was a lot more disciplined.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know I'm pushing the action. They're going to eventually give him a stalling point.
Yeah.
I just got to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Bushesha got the stalling point. He won by that. But such a lame.
I was expecting more aggression on I think Gordon definitely was trying more, but even he could have been more aggressive. I felt like I think they were both overly cautious. Even though, like, I don't disagree that with the penalty that Buchecha had, I think that he was way too cautious, if you ask me. And I don't know if it was just like one of those things where he just, because Buchecha's normally the guy that pulls the trigger at some point. You know, he never really did that fight.
I would say in general, the Buchecha looked very off.
The whole tournament he wasn't. Here's what I own it. I could be wrong, Dave. The guy's won so much. You see what I'm saying? Like, think about that. Like, he's got 13 black belt world titles. Was it 12? 12 or 13. Like, that's a record. You know, so would an ADCC open weight class change his life? What is it going to do for him? In reality, it's a missing title, but I'm just saying that there's a distinction as far as motivation.
Correct. Yeah.
Gordon just got. I mean, he's a fairly much younger than Buchecha. He's like fairly younger to the scene. He feels that he has a lot more.
Oh no, he's hungrier for it for
sure. He's definitely hungry. Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, because Buchecha the whole tournament looked very lackluster compared to like other events where I've seen him where he just
on fire.
Yeah, he goes on fire. Like he just barely got by Braga Neto, like barely, you know. And other matches too, it's just like he did just enough just to win, right?
Yeah, and kind of,
yeah. He didn't destroy anybody. You know what I mean, not that I can recall. He didn't like obliterate anybody.
No,
he just barely squeaked by each guy. You know?
I agree. And
whereas Gordon, if you he pretty much blew everybody apart except two people, Lucas, which he had a tough match with, but he won with a back take. And then, of course, with Buchecha, but it was just a non-engagement issue.
Yeah. Although there's a situation I want to watch again, because one time Buchecha had a headlock and Gordon set. And in my head, that's 2 points because you never shot in, because you have a single or a double. After 3 seconds, you sit. That's nothing. But from a front headlock, I'm not sure what the rules say, because he sat from the front headlock. And that's another thing I want to talk about at some point here, Dave, is
the rules.
They kept there's not only is there a lot of gray area, it's like the judges kind of kept that gray area. We're in charge of this gray area, and we'll decide on the spot what is and what isn't. And the criteria is like far less clear to me now than it was before this ADCC, because I'm not sure what the criteria are. I think they need to spend some time figuring out rules and a bigger rule book to make it very clear and definite to competitors what's acceptable and what's not.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I was chatting with Vinny Magales, and because he had a similar situation where they given his opponent 2 points when he thought it was going to be 0 because he had pulled in a certain way. And then he showed me the contrast with the situation with Buchecha, where you can look at it. It doesn't look like it was a 3-second hold, because from my understanding, it doesn't matter who does it. If you go turtle 3 seconds, regardless of how you got there, and then you pull, then it doesn't count. So, but like the timing on the clip I saw did not appear to be 3 seconds. It appeared to be like a second. And then,
for Vinny.
For Gordon, right? So that he was saying, you see, they did this, but then in my match, when he had a 3-second hold, and then they still penalized him, and he was the one who pulled because he shot, and then 3 seconds and then pulled guard, and they gave the opponent 2. So he's like, if anything, it should have been a -1 if it was something. But it should have been 0 because it was a 3 seconds. So like you're saying, the ambiguity, and like you said, the gray area is a perfect way. Nothing's black and white in those type of weird rules. So it's like maybe this guy thinks is one way, this other guy thinks is the other way.
Clear.
So it's like, I just, like when Vinny was saying, I just want consistency. I just want to know every time this situation happens, like, it's not a coin toss where it's always 50-50. Like, I should be 100%. I know if I do this, I'm going to get points or not get points. Or
so you know how to prepare. You know, you make the right decision. Like, you can't, like, I wonder what's going to happen. You want to know what's going to happen when you go, like, left or right. And, you know, there was definitely, with the front headlock thing, even if it is 3 seconds, I'm pretty sure you can't sit, because that's not a near takedown. You have to be going for a takedown, and then you can sit. He was in the headlock.
No, it could be a defensive action as well, right?
Are you sure?
Yeah. So if you double leg me, take me down, and I go on my 4s, 3 seconds, roll the guard, nothing.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard to score. It's the thing that I hate the most about the rules. I guess we might as well talk about rules since we're deep in it, right? Like, to me, the problem with ADCC is some matches are amazing. Like that opening round, all submissions, a lot of action, great. But then you have some matches like the finals there, or even with the Craig Jones final with Mateos, just boring as hell, right? Because everybody's being so cautious because they know if you get 1 point, you're done already. Like,
it's so hard.
It's so hard to score, right? So like, what you need, and I have to look back and see how many overtimes happened, but at least like 30% of the matches went to overtime.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I was gonna say, like I've never seen a sport where there are so many overtimes.
Yeah.
This is it's unheard of.
Yeah.
And no points scored. Like I know a lot of Americans don't like soccer because no points are scored. It's like ADCC is like way worse. Like no points ever.
No points and overtimes constantly. Right. Yeah. So that's a problem. Right. So the problem to me is that you need to make it easier to score.
I agree. This makes some changes.
Because I'd rather see like a 10-7 versus a 0-0, because that means I know the points are supposed to reward positive behavior, which in ideal sense is supposed to be promoting ending the fight. Yeah. But also from the spectator standpoint, it's entertaining. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, this guy did a good technique and it was rewarded. So I think the first loophole they have to kill is that turtle rule. Yeah. And what I'm referring to is like any time in ADCC, if you're doing a takedown or a sweep and you get taken down, you go to turtle, you hold the position for 3 seconds, and then you go to guard, nothing happens. 0 points, right? At any point in the match. To me, it's ridiculous because the whole point behind a takedown and sweep is getting top position. So if you're on top of me and I sweep you, and then you go to turtle, and then you go 3 seconds, you go back to your guard, I'm still on top.
Yes, you accomplished your mission.
I accomplished my mission. So, like, whatever you did means nothing.
Well, I go for a step further. I think if you're in turtle, it should be 2 points. You're on top. And like, oh, well, you're not holding him on his back. It's not wrestling or judo. If this were a fight, I'd be punching you in the head. Watch the UFC. Yes. Like, it's a number 1 TKO position is what? Turtle position. Yeah. That is a very dominant position in a fight. Absolutely. Like, the fact that I would rather be in turtle than in guard, or half guard, or side control for that matter. Yeah. If I could pick a place to start a fight that's not like a submission, it would be turtle. Yeah. I mean, other than the back, maybe. Like, I would rather be in turtle than mount, side control, half guard, because it's. I mean, in a fight, it's such a dominant position, and ADCC as well. I agree with you. I think that they have to change the rules. The most absurd thing I saw was the fact that they were letting the fight go not only out of bounds. We're talking on concrete. Yes. And they were still, and everyone's waiting, like, and they don't say stop, and then they're going to find out what's going to happen, and the action is still going. People are scoring points on concrete. Yes. After the match was like, it should have been stopped like 15 seconds ago. They're still going on concrete, and the match is just going on, man.
And 3 people got seriously injured, right? There was Yuri Simons, he hurt his knee. You had Felipe Pena, who probably popped his rib. And then I saw Mike Perez crack his head open and he was bleeding. So it's like, come on, guys, this is
you got to stop the fight early.
We gotta.
Yuri got his back taken by Kainan. Like the whole sequence to the back took place out of bounds. Like none of it was started inside. The whole sequence, you have to watch it. It was like a 10-second sequence, and then the judge is just like looking, like the referee just like looking at it, doesn't do anything. I'm like. And these are the things that they absolutely need to fix. And I have a theory why it's going on. They don't have enough matches at ADCC, very few matches, and they only referee, once every 2 years. Imagine if you only trained every 2 years. What would happen in your jiu-jitsu? Yeah. It wouldn't be great, would it? Like, you get rusty. You don't remember the rules. You know what to do. Yeah. Getting caught in a triangle, bad. Getting someone in a triangle, good. But your decision-making is not quite there. So I think a lot of these referees are maybe lacking experience. And because, like, for example, like trial and error is what perfects any system you have, right? Any rule set, anything, your iPhone, like you use it enough, Apple spots the mistakes. What do? They bring out an update, right? Trial and error. When you have a lot of competition, like IBJJF has a lot of tournaments, they are able to spot the problems and they can They can fix them. Then you end up with a bigger rule book. True. But those are that is a consequence of trial and error. When you don't have a lot of experience, what happens? You end up with, people that are unprepared because they just don't have that know-how. Yeah, and a lot of situations they never encountered and don't know how to handle. Yeah. And they're like, oh, let it play through. Wing it. Yeah. I felt they were winging it a lot of times. Like, I don't know what to do, this or that, but for the competitor, that's a nightmare. Yeah. Because that's your livelihood right there, man. That's the most important term for any, grappler. And they're not sure what the criteria are. Yeah, and that out of bounds thing is the second biggest problem. I think the turtle is the biggest one, closely followed by the out of bounds, because one, it's inconsistent, because sometimes you see, like with Yuri, they let the situation play out and they restarted them from the same position inside. And sometimes you'll see someone score a clean takedown and then they just start back on their feet. And it's like, who's getting favoritism? Between who wins and who's not. But like in general, people are always going to flee out because there's no penalty. In like 99% of the cases,
you just get a restart from your feet. So like, of course, like you're taking me down. Yeah, I'm gonna go out of bounds. You know, and maybe I'm not even fleeing the mat, but I'm just backing up as you take me down and let it happen.
The other one that really I thought it was not correct. The sweep criteria is not clear to me. Me and Brawley were talking. We're like, was that not sweep? And we were missing something. They changed the rules. It happened at least once in the Jamil Hill and Nicky fight, maybe twice. Can't remember. And in the Mason Fowler fight against Craig Jones, same thing. He swept him like, where are the points? Me and Brawley are like, where are the points? We're not understanding where the did we miss something?
Yeah, they. So I remember the Nicky Ryan one with Jamil Hill. So Jamil was on his back, and he stood up with I think it was a single leg X or whatnot, but it ended up being like a single leg. And okay. So it was a mid sweep. Somehow, as Jamil was standing up, Nicky Ryan got the single. Jamil threw a Kimura trap, flipped, but he didn't hold it well, and he ended up on his back. And then they gave Nicky 2 for a takedown. Yeah. But everybody's like, he started off his back.
Yeah.
And he's still on his back.
Yeah, there's no progress.
So they said, if anything, then you must have given him a sweep at some point for him to be able to get the takedown again, right?
And I think that one thing that happens, too, is everyone's a little scared to complain at ADCC because it's an invite tournament. No one wants to talk about that, but that dynamic is going on. I can see everyone's like biting their tongue because if you burn that bridge,
you're not coming back.
Even as a coach, you're like, okay, you win. Have it your way.
Yeah, you're gonna contrast how people complain in other tournaments.
Oh, absolutely. There was no complaining.
Yeah, and people you just see them eating it. It's like
because it's an invite-based tournament. Yeah. Like most people get invited, and if you're a coach or a team leader in general, you got like, I don't want to screw everyone else for the next tournament. But that's something that has to be discussed because it is a problem. Became very clear. I think that there's been some debate about this being the best ADCC ever. In my opinion, as far as techniques go, it's been consistently getting better every single edition.
For sure.
Right? So this one holds true to that pattern.
Yes.
Right? But when it comes to the criteria, like so many overtimes, I think that was not the best ADCC. No. I thought it upsets and excitement. I think it was definitely up there. I think it was a very good ACC.
Yeah, I think like you're saying, the scoring was really very inconsistent this time around. There was a lot of situations you're like, what?
It's not making sense.
Yeah. So I think the turtle thing's got to go. I think the out of bounds they should use. They should penalize. So I think one of two things. Either if I do a takedown or a sweep that lands out of bounds, whether or not I had control, point.
Yeah.
Right. Whoever's on top, you score.
Something.
That way, it's going to discourage people from like, even like if they wouldn't have finished inbounds, I can't allow a takedown to start, and move me out of bounds. Yeah. I'm not going to move out of bounds to flee it because it's going to hurt me. Or to me, I like the extreme, which is more black and white, which is you get pushed out of bounds, 1 point.
Yeah.
I don't care what's going on. You land a body part out of bounds because then it's going to force people to stay in the middle. Yeah. And then, when people stay in the middle and they're pushing into each other, it's going to be a lot easier to score takedowns.
We should at some point maybe like sit down and discuss some of these, like write down some suggestions and maybe send it to some of the refs.
I have to
because
I've had this written out for years because I ran a grappling tournament. My brother and I in Florida, we called it International Grappling Championship. It was back like in 2004, and we used this rule set. It worked great. I don't think we had maybe like a handful of overtimes and hundreds of matches. Because the other thing I was going to say. A third thing is that people don't like pulling guard, and then you see all these weird ways of people trying to shoot, hold 3 seconds, and pull because they don't want the minus point, and then you're going to lose. The way we did it, you pull guard, you lose a point.
Yeah.
If I stand up, I get a point, right? Because I neutralized, right? Like, what did I do? I pulled guard, which I'm conceding top position.
Yeah.
It's an inferior position. So, you penalize yourself. But if I'm able to escape and get back to my feet,
I like that. You force the other guy to hold him down too.
Yes, and then but it also works in another way. You take me down, you get 2. I escape, I get 1. Wow, you couldn't control me. I was able to get up, and I had to use technique to stand up.
Yes.
It rewards the action.
I like that because it prepares you for a real fight too.
Yes, exactly. What happens in MMA? You get down, you gotta get back up.
I like that. So that's smart. I like that. Makes a lot of sense.
And it also gives the guy on bottom a chance to score now, like just by standing up. Otherwise, some people just concede and they just sit there and do nothing, and it gets a little boring.
So those are I think most people agree on some of these aspects of ADCC. The other one was it was a very contentious ADCC in the sense where there was a clear rift between the crowd and amongst the competitors, and I consider it a cultural shock, Dave. It's not just a matter of technique or, I'm rooting for my team, you're rooting for yours. They're very different approaches to sport, right? There is been a lot of trash talk from promoters, from competitors, from coaches, and that is unusual in the culture, right? Yeah. It's something that's been on the rise for some time, but this event, it was like the culmination of that sort of behavior. Like we literally had Gordon flipping off the crowd, after he won this fight, which to me is like, I can't imagine that happening in the Olympics, because we're calling ADCC the Olympics of grappling. I cannot imagine that happening, or in a judo tournament. Can you imagine that in a judo tournament, or even collegiate wrestling? I don't know. Did that happen?
No, it doesn't. That would be big news if somebody did that. You imagine like Jordan Burroughs and like.
I can't imagine Jordan Burroughs doing that after winning an Olympic gold medal, like flipping off the crowd. Like I just don't see that happening. And then and the crazy part is like when you criticize these people, they call you a hater because you don't want to applaud their narcissism. It's like you're acting like you're at odds with everything the sport represents, which is respect, right? Yeah. And humility, and then whoever criticizes that is a hater, which is a strange dynamic to me. Like, you're the one who's hating the crowd for not liking your, childish behavior.
Yeah, similarly, you had another form of this, which was like Cyborg when he lost.
Yeah.
He started throwing a temper tantrum, and then he actually just bowed out of the tournament out of protest because he got upset. And this is kind of I think it was obviously because he was facing the same team because
there's some rivalry between him and the Gordon
camp. Guys. So like I think to lose to one of their guys again and then again that was close 0-0 ref decision type thing.
I don't think Cyborg got ripped off. I think it was close enough. It could have gone either way. If I were the judge, I would have given it to Cyborg because it was a submission. I think I always valued submission more than position in terms of reward. Personally,
right.
It makes more sense to me, right? But I don't feel he got ripped off. But anyway, I agree. I think that anytime you don't accept defeat for what it is, you don't blame the ref. I mean, even when I've had many times I disagreed with refs.
Oh yeah.
But I think that a matter of the cultural shock I'm really talking about, Dave, is like I like the Japanese style. I like that. Yeah. Like the bow, respect your elders, respect the people who taught you, the people who came before you. You don't use that, when you're representing the sport, you don't use foul language. You avoid it at least,
Yeah.
And we've swung all the way towards pro wrestling. It's like it's so close to pro wrestling now. I don't even recognize the sport. And you can see, because it's more of a Western tradition. Like, the West comes from boxing. Pro wrestling is huge in the West. Japan too, but I think they take it differently there. Like they don't, it hasn't gone over to the martial arts, the real combat sports. Like it doesn't transfer over, right? And to me, it's odd. Like in that sense, I think it was the worst ADCC ever because I don't like this sort of behavior. I don't think it belongs in martial arts. But that and specifically to as far as the lack of respect the competitors were showing to before, during, and after the fights.
Yeah, it goes against the ideals that we ascribe, at least in Western society, to the martial arts, which is like you're saying, it's humility, respect, honor, and all that. And when you have people flipping off the crowd or you have people talking trash, it sets a bad example, I think, because ideally who we want the next generation to be, the kids coming in, and then they're looking at that. Yeah. And this is like part of the Conor McGregor effect as well, which they've realized, it's much easier to get attention by slapping people than it is by shaking their hand.
Yeah.
So now everybody's going around. It's like a slap fest now.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality of human psychology. Yeah. Like I always said, like if I walk up to you and I slap you in the face, you'll remember me for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But if you have a random guy shake your hand, you'll forget me, right? So we remember pain more than we remember like a good memory. Everybody's lasting impression when they see someone do this shock culture stuff, it's always going to stick, But it just sucks it has to be that way.
Well, I think that, like, for example, like I could for example, there are certain IBJJF rules that I don't like. I've never liked them, but I've used them in my favor.
Yes.
Can you call me a hypocrite? I've always thought, given this a lot of thought. I don't like the rule. I think it's crazy, right? But I use that in my favor because the rules allow me to.
Yes.
There are tax loopholes in this country I think are absurd. I've used them like everyone else.
Yeah.
I don't like them. I think they're crazy, but I use them. Am I a hypocrite? If there's a rule I don't like in a tournament, right? I can't call the competitor a hypocrite. I don't blame these guys so much for doing it because they get rewarded for it. They're making money. I I don't agree with it, but I understand where they're coming from, right? What I don't understand are people who applaud that behavior. That I don't get. Because like if I saw someone, if my children behave like that, like I'd smack them. Like you don't behave like that. That's not how you treat other people, regardless of. Even if someone had said something first, you still don't do it. I think it's wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. If something's wrong, it's wrong in principle. End of story. But it just doesn't seem to be the case. Like people actually, it's like the crazier you behave, the more obnoxious you are. And I think you mentioned human psychology. I think that there's an aspect of human psychology, but we know that the opposite is possible because we've seen it as well. I think it depends which plant you water. You water the one that, breeds arrogance or the one that breeds humility and respect. But it depends on which direction we go as a society. But I think it's a symptom, David, of something much bigger than jiu-jitsu or grappling for that matter.
Oh,
it's something that's, we watched the rise of not only Conor, but the Kardashians, the Paris Hiltons of the famous for being famous and be obnoxious online and people love it. And that's what's so odd to me is that people love that sort of behavior so much. I want to be entertained. Are you why can you not entertain yourself with good technique? Yeah. Like that's what I'm after, man. I want to see the flying heel hooks, man, the jumping guillotines, the slams, the arm bars, the transitions. What's wrong with that? Is that so? Why can't that entertain people? Maybe I'm different. I don't need the soap opera. I don't need this trash talking. I think grappling is amazing for what it is technically. The hype is not. It's completely unnecessary. It doesn't make me like jiu-jitsu more. It makes me dislike it, if anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I always like the guys who I consider good ambassadors of the sport. That's why when we had Mikey Musemi here, it was so refreshing because he's a young guy. Yeah. He's got his head on straight, and I think I've heard a little bit from Ty Bertullo. He seems like a really nice kid too, and so that's promising, but we do have these people who are just exploiting the tendency of people to want, and what you're talking about is true though. Like you don't see this happen in the Olympics or and to a lesser extent, this doesn't really happen too much in professional sports like NFL, NBA, because the athletes get sanctioned or they get penalized, right? Because the NFL and stuff, they say, well, these are ambassadors of our brand, and if they're making us look bad, we're not going to get the sponsors, blah, blah, blah. So at some point, you wonder if people in grappling or even in mixed martial arts are going to start holding those similar standards to their athletes. Like, you can't go around smacking people or smashing cell phones, but at this moment it's rewarded, right? Like if you look at the UFC, it blows rewarded. Up. Yeah,
it blows up.
You look at like Gordon, he's getting rewarded.
The crazy part
he's getting so much coverage from Flow Grappling. Yeah. Like you said, you can't blame him. Like it's almost in the sense like you'd be stupid not to do it. Yeah. Because he's blown up.
Yeah, I blame more the crowd than him. But the crazy thing is that you get like a Conor when he throws a trolley on a bus, or like he punches some old guy at a bar. That helps him.
Oh, yeah.
That's insane to me that something like that actually helps him. I think he does this shit on purpose.
Oh, no, yeah.
He breaks someone's phone because it actually makes him more money. So it's like we're living in this crazy time. And I will not give in. I think it is an expression of human nature. It is not the only expression of human nature. We have seen better. But we're living at a time where the crazier you are, the more disrespectful, the more arrogant, the more obnoxious, and the more ignorant you are, the better. Like people are applauding idiots. Like let's like every person who acts like a total idiot gets put on a pedestal, and the people who act respectfully. Like I know I'd follow Augusto Mendes Tanquinho for many, many years. I have never seen that guy say a bad word about anyone.
Yeah,
I have never seen him disrespect anyone. He's not loud. Most people don't even know who he is. He even complained when he won. He got the mic and he said, like, when are you guys going to give me my proper recognition? I've won this. I've been winning consistently for 15 years. I've beaten everyone in the business. And you guys have given me zero media. When he's absolutely correct. And I was following like the feed, and it was like for every post of these other guys, there were like 6, 7 of of Gordon. And that is right there, I don't blame Flow Grappling either. That is a reflex of the crowd.
Yeah, that's what
they're going. It's a business. They're trying to go where, like, what are the analytics saying, right? You get more recognition for this, you go in that direction. It's a business decision, right? I mean, I personally wouldn't, I wouldn't do that personally, but I can understand where they're coming from. But when it comes to the crowd rewarding that, that's what's so unusual to me. Like, that to me is a big mystery, and I think it's a cultural trend that I hope changes, because I think it's not the best representation of the human spirit.
It definitely isn't, hopefully that turns, but we'll see. But,
I'm sorry. I literally saw today Nick Rodriguez was being interviewed, and someone interviewed, and they asked him, so you think Cyborg is done? Which to me is such a disrespectful question. Cyborg is 39. Yeah. He has absolutely nothing to prove. Granted, I don't agree with his behavior after the fight. Yeah. I get that. But the fact that anyone can even ask that question is such an idiotic question. He's 39. Look at what he's done. How dare you even ask the question?
Yeah.
To me, And then the response is, I don't think he was ever there. And this is coming from a guy who was like in his early 20s, and he's saying that to Cyborg, who's like double his age. Like, it's gone beyond disrespectful, man. Like, we've reached this whole new level of like, forget the people who have paved the way, the road that you walk on. You are walking on a road that was paved by the people you're disrespecting. And no one seems to think that's a problem. It's like they get applauded for it. Like, it's like morality got flipped on its head, David. Like, I don't even know. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, it's a big mystery. And like I said, I hope it stops at some point.
Hopefully, but I'm not sure.
No, it looks like it's getting worse because now the young generation is watching. I'm like, oh, that's what I got to do. Yeah. So now we're going to have a lot of teenagers, and it's not going to be one Gordon in the future.
Yeah,
it's going to be an army of gold. Man, I hope I'm no longer around jiu-jitsu by then. I don't want to be around to see it. It's going to be ugly.
Well, let's get back to some of the recaps because I do want to talk about some more of the upsets, particularly in the women's under 60 kilo division.
That was a big one.
Yeah, we definitely were surprised in that one, I think. BF faced off with Ffion.
That was the semifinals.
Yes. And, we had thought
everyone had BF. I think Ffion Davies probably. I think everyone had B in the beginning of the tournament. Like, she was a favorite to win.
And Ffion surprised everybody, got a guard pass, went to the mount, got a mounted triangle, and then BF started turning. It became like an inverted a reverse triangle, and then switched off to an arm lock. And what a brutal arm lock. Nasty. And Bia is a trooper. She ate it probably more than I wish she would have. If she tapped, it's because there was no way for her. I think she like hung in there way longer than she should have. Yeah, I'm hoping she dislocated her elbow
and not torn everything.
It looked like, because it moved. It was such a big jump. I think it was a dislocation, which is actually better.
It is better
than tearing out or breaking a bone or something like that. But yeah, it was a brutal armbar. And then you had the twist on the other end, where then Ffion goes up against Bianca in the finals, and then she gets brutally toe-holded.
Yeah,
and has to be carried out. So it's like, you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
It was that was a big upset. I did not expect Ffion to beat Bia.
Yeah.
The other upset was, I want to talk about upsets now, Dante Leon and Lucas Lepri. I had Lucas to beat JT in the final. I had JT, and I think Lepri's going to win. Man, Dante, it's very impressive, man. That's a huge win.
Yeah, big feather in his cap right there.
And I think it's one of those things. It's kind of, I feel bad for Lepri because he's won so much already. But ADCC is the one thing that keeps escaping him, man. Like, he's so close. He's lost 2 finals, and now he lost an up-and-coming guy. Huge win for Dante. I had that was the biggest upset determined up to that point. And then afterwards, there were so many. Like, I don't even know which one is the biggest upset at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to cover them all, you know. But yeah, that was an interesting matchup. JT did really well. He beat Wagner. He went to the finals. Like, he fought perfectly. Yeah. Made no tactical mistakes.
And he beat Gordon in the semis, right? I think not Gordon. No, I'm sorry.
Gary.
Yeah,
Gary
the semis. Huge win.
Yeah, with a back take, I believe.
That was the best Gary I've ever seen, by the way.
Gary looked phenomenal.
Yeah, it was like, because like he's been doing MMA, so I'm thinking his submission game may be less sharp because he's gonna be working his hands, so and so, cage wrestling, whatever. Best Gary I've ever seen.
Yeah, he looked great. I thought the same thing. I thought, well, he's focused on MMA. He was like a kind of a last minute replacement type deal, filling in for somebody, or not last minute, but he wasn't in there the whole time. Yeah. So I'm like, he's probably just doing this to have fun because he's a funny guy. You know what I mean? And he had the best outfit there. That was a pretty funny outfit. He had the Uncle Sam.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
He's the one guy that I like his sense of humor because he's very self-depreciating. I think you know what I mean. Like he makes himself look like a clown, but it worked out for him. But his wrestling was on point. Like his match
wrestling was on point
with Renato Canuti. He was throwing throw-bys and shucks all over the place. Like really good wrestling. So that's why it was even more impressive. JT just again was able to put it on him. Like
JT, two-time ADCC champion, amazing performance. Very impressed with JT. Especially because he's not living in San Diego anymore. He got his own gym, which has responsibilities. That means he's got more things to do, man. Like and less time to train and focus on himself. So very impressive.
But he carried the vibe of being a champion.
Yeah.
Right. Like when he was challenging for it, he was at the challenger position. I don't know. There's a different aura people give off. You know what I mean? Like when he's in there now, it's like he is the man.
Yeah.
So like I think that carries a lot of weight when you have that belief in yourself. So and it showed because he played an excellent game.
And he was consistent throughout the whole event.
Yes,
that's consistently good, well-rounded. And I remember when he was fighting Wagner. Wagner was really trying to get into his head, get him emotional, like because that's what Wagner has. Like if I upset you, now you act emotionally, you make more mistakes, right? He was stoic the whole time. He kept his cool. Like his expression didn't change. It was just like I got a mission, and I'm focused on the mission. So very impressive performance by JT. Who else? I'm trying to think.
We had
spoke of Thai. The women's division, Gabby winning the over 60 kilos. Yeah, no surprises there.
No surprises there. She's a 4-time ADCC champion now. Again, like who's gonna stop her?
So and it was tough one. Oh, that girl Karina Sanchi did really good. She beat Nacheli de Jesus, which I did not expect. It was a good win. But overall, man, I think technically, like I said, which is really what I'm looking at. Yeah. Like I don't like the other things I talked about, like the disrespect. I think the reffing was pretty bad, the judging and the reffing. But what I'm really after, my favorite thing about the sport has always been the display of techniques, and in that regard, I think that jiu-jitsu has still been proven, man. Like I think Lachlan is the king of heel hooks, not anyone. Like the stuff he was doing was on a different level, man. It was very, very, the display of the techniques and to get in there was beautiful to watch. Like it was beautiful technique.
You're gonna see everybody's gonna start working that now. It was funny on Instagram. He had put a post there, and then Ali goes, "We need the DVD as soon as possible." And then he tagged Patrigario and Kanye. So like everybody's like, "Oh, he wins the internet." But self-depreciating quote.
But like it's I like that. Yeah. I think that's the way it should be. Like and Lachlan he's a class act. How did he act when he won?
Yeah,
he was happy, celebrated with his wife. Was respectful. He hasn't acted like an idiot. And that's. And man, it's beautiful when you win. And congratulations to Gordon and everyone else who went and compete in the tournament. Yeah. If you're there, you're awesome. You're incredible. Yeah. But let's keep the culture awesome.
But another thing I wanted to talk about was Galvao with Felipe Pena.
Yeah, that's right.
First of all, Galvao looks enormous.
Looks like he's like a juggernaut. Yeah.
Yeah, he's literally like, my God, man. Like he was so vascular, it was crazy. Yeah. And
I think his game plan for Felipe was very intelligent. I was surprised he took him down so early in the fight, but I think he did that to wear him out. He wanted to wear Felipe out, and that was clearly his strategy. I'm not quite sure why he took him down so early in the fight when there were no points.
Yeah.
But the game plan worked because he beat Felipe because Felipe got tired.
I was very confused as what Felipe was hoping to achieve because he got in a bunch of times where he'd get under the leg, get towards the back, and he would have like kind of like a calf slicer, but not really. Mm. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, he's gonna either. I didn't think he was gonna go for a leg lock. I thought he was gonna use this to climb, go for the back, but he never did. Mm. Right? And he did like 5 or 6 times where he would get that position, he would work to get it, but then he would just stick there, and then eventually Galvao would just escape. So like, I wasn't sure like how he was seeing himself winning this fight. I don't know if you had any ideas about that. about Felipe Pena's strategy because
it wasn't clear to me what his strategy was.
Yeah, because he kept doing the same thing. Like I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. He would get under the leg, and Galvao would turn, and he would be like in a calf slicer. Not really. But I figured he's not going to try to leg lock Galvao. Galvao's very good at leg lock defense. I thought maybe, because I've seen people do that where they get to the calf slicer position, but then they use that pressure to climb up the back. And I know he's a big back taking guy, so maybe that's what he's doing. But like, he never used it.
You know what? I think physically he seemed off. I think I saw something on his Instagram. Don't quote me, but I think he had some health issues before. And I can see that because physically he wasn't quite there. Like you can see his reaction was a little off. He got way too tired, way too fast. Like he was not as explosive and as dynamic as he normally is. I had him as being the more dynamic one in the fight. I thought Andre would gas before he did. But like, no, Andre gassed him out, and that was exactly... I believe it was his game plan because he executed it perfectly. Yeah. And, huge win. That was the best Andre Galvao I've ever seen, by the way.
Yeah, I mean... physically as well. Yeah. Guy's freaking monstrous. So then you have that matchup with him, and so I guess they're saying he's going to stick around for another 2 years. People are like, I don't know.
Man. You know what? He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. He's got absolutely nothing to prove, man. Like, what an amazing career. Gi, no gi, and MMA. How many people can say that?
Yeah.
MMA doing stellar, but he fought. You got to give him credit for that. It's a hard thing to do.
No, for sure. Anybody who crosses over. And again, they're doing different sports.
Yeah, and he's been doing that. And not only that, he has put together arguably the best team in the world.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good resume. So I give Andre a lot of props. In my opinion, he should retire. I don't think he's got a thing to prove. But if I know Andre, he's not. Yeah. I think if I know him well enough, he's going to do it again. And I hope he does, but I hope he retires too. I'm confused. I don't know which one I want. I would like to see him with Gordon, but I think
it would be an interesting matchup.
I think he should retire. He's got nothing to prove, man.
It would be an interesting matchup because Gordon, whether or not you like the antics, right now he's on his path to being the best American grappler.
Well, not best no-gi grappler.
Best no-gi.
Yeah. I mean, not only America, but like everyone. I think because of his age and his talent, I think he has the potential to break Garcia's record, Andre's record. He has that kind of potential.
Yeah. The only thing
can he stay sane because he's so nauseous? He's the kind of guy that goes like off on a tangent in life, and if he can keep sane, maybe. But like it's when you're that much of a narcissist, man, like your life can take some funny turns,
Yeah, the only thing he doesn't have is a solid wrestling game. Like he has some wrestling, but if you compare him and Galvao, Galvao would run him over, right?
Yeah, I think I think there's a reason why he wanted to sit with Buchecha as soon as he could because Buchecha would out wrestle him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. It's probably like the weakest aspect of his game. Not that it's weak.
Yeah, not that it's weak, but relative to everything else in his game, it's a weak point, right? Yeah. Like, obviously, his bottom game is very good. His top game passing is very good. Submission game is excellent. So, like, I would want to see him evolve that wrestling game and round it off. Because if he developed that, because that would be like, if he faces against Galvao, that's going to be the problem. That he's not going to be able to out-wrestle Galvao with his current skill set. So that gives Galvao a lot of room to win.
But he keeps getting bigger and bigger, man. I remember when first time I saw Gordon compete, I didn't even know. I remember him now because he fought one of my students at an ADCC trial that was in Florida, maybe like 2015. He fought Kyle Griffin. Kyle almost beat him. Kyle actually had him. He was winning until he made some dumb mistake and Gordon got his back. But he was doing really well. And that was the first time. He was like a skinny kid, man. So he's been gaining weight. So by the time he fights Andre in 2 years, he's probably going to be, I don't know.
But at the same token, Galvao's been getting bigger too.
Andre's like this short. He's like always gonna be a lot smaller. Like Galvao has always been like. I remember when I first met him, he was a featherweight, but he was like 16 years old. But he's like good foot shorter.
Yeah, he's not tall.
He's not tall.
But man, but his back is just enormous.
He's fucking massive. Man.
Yeah. So I don't think there will be a good. At least strength disparity, I don't think there'd be any.
I don't know, man. I'm like the concept of strength. I mean, it's so little to do with actual size. Some of the strongest people I ever met were like skinny. They did not like Garcia's stupid strong. He doesn't look it.
I know most people don't. My brother actually grappled him, and My brother's like, everybody likes to talk about Marcelo Garcia like he's like suave and like
stupid strong.
No, he's like, man, like he grabbed him, he's crazy strong. His legs are like tree trunks and like crazy strong too. Like he's ridiculously strong. He just doesn't look.
And I don't correlate size and strength like people. I think for bodybuilding, for powerlifting, that's true. But when it comes to grappling, some of the strongest people I've ever met didn't look strong at all. They were like skinny and completely. So I think there's something there, but it's not as, there's a lot more going on when it comes to grappling strength and size.
Yeah, no, I've seen that all my life because I've never been muscly. Like my arms never get big or anything like that. But I remember I'd be wrestling and I'd see guys with like freaking giant arms, but then I'd throw them around. Like they felt like hollow almost, you know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you there. The looks can be deceiving, but I think in cases like guys like Galvao or like Gordon, I don't think they're deceiving. I think they're I think they're quite strong.
I mean, but it has to do with like the preparation, all these aspects, right? Not the size itself.
Yeah. And I guess the last thing we can talk about before we close off, there was quite a few tactical errors that I saw. That it's like when people do, I'm like, it's like you were doing so well and you just made a goof that cost you the match, right? Like the first one I can think of was with Elvira. Remember, I had picked her to win, and she was facing Bianca. They were tied, and they went to overtime. And the overtime, Elvira pulls guard immediately, gets a -1.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, why did you do that? She stood up and then pulled guard again and got another -1.
Yeah.
I'm like, somebody stop, please. Yeah. You just tanked yourself.
But that's Paulo Miguel does that every single time. He's fully aware of it, but it's just like, I'd rather take a -1 than have to wrestle. And at some point, I think he did try to wrestle someone there. Who was it? Can't remember. But it's just like his wrestling is just so not there, you know. But we don't have that skill. Like, you just rather give away the point. Or is it just like they're forgetting about the rules maybe?
No, because like she can wrestle. Because then like she got up and she started wrestling with Bianca was holding her own, but she ended up losing by those minus points. And then similar thing happened to Craig Jones, where he got impatient because Mateus was
playing safe.
He was aggressively stalling, right?
Yeah.
Like he's shoving him, but like not entering the guard. And at some point, Craig stood up, shot, pulled, and he did it too quickly.
Yeah,
got a -point.
Tactical mistakes were.
But that's another one where the judging was kind of inconsistent because he actually shot in and then pulled. Yeah. So that should have been a -1, but they actually gave it a 2.
Yeah.
And then Mateus was actually given a -point. Yeah. So it would have been a tied match at some point, you know. So I don't know, but like, I feel like competitors, you have to be really patient. You have to have faith in your game plan.
There's no when the criteria is unclear, it's hard to be tactical too. That's true. The other thing. Like I've been like situations where I'm like, I'm not sure what the ref's gonna do, so I'm like, I don't know what to do. Not because I don't know what's best for me, it's because I don't know what his criteria are. Yeah. You know, and if you don't know the criteria, it's very difficult to make an instructed decision.
Yeah. So I mean, I would hope for the. I don't think it's likely, but I would hope they would listen, right? Yeah. Like, but you know, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think they're pretty set in how they want to run it for whatever reason.
It's a very like it's a weird dynamic because it's, you know, like they seem to be just like improvising a lot of times to me. Like they don't quite know what to do, so they like do that, you know, and not a lot of thought goes behind a lot of the things that they're doing. I don't think, you know, and the experience is definitely not there.
Yeah, but overall, like you said, technique looked very good. I had a couple of gripes with some people using Kimura traps because they didn't execute proper technique. Yeah. I saw Jamel Hill when he went against Nicky. He committed a similar error that Wagner did, which actually cost Wagner the match with JT because he went for the Kimura, fell off,
snuck out the back,
and then in the scramble, JT got his back, right? And it's something I see a lot where it's a similar error that in the UFC Rose Namajunas made that ended up getting her spiked in her head against Andrade, which they're not using the leg hook, number one. Yeah. And what I tell people, it's a sumigaesh, right? But you're using a Kimura grip instead of grabbing the back. So that leg hook in the inner thigh, super important because I need to throw you. Yeah. Right. And what's happening? They're just falling down and expecting like a guard pull. Yeah. and then that's going to throw you over.
Yeah.
You got a solid base and you know it's coming. You're going to sit,
Yeah.
and then I'm just going to land in front of you, right? And now it relies on my Kimura leverage, which is the second thing. They're falling without having enough shoulder pressure. So they have the grip, but like when I talk about doing the Kimura, I'm always driving behind the shoulder to double them over. And they're not doing that. So they're falling and the guy's is looking at them. And now you got a minus point, or you're going to scramble and expose your back. So, I was let down by a few of the people that used it. It's like you need to clean up the technique a little bit so that you don't have those type of things. Because whenever you're doing techniques like that, you have to have perfect technique there. Because ending up on your back in this situation, it costs you the match.
So, David, when it comes to our predictions, I was wrong about almost everything. I was wrong about a lot.
And we were
but the one thing I was correct about, and this is a prediction I've been calling for a long, long time, is wrestling was the decisive factor.
Yes.
I think leg locks played a bigger role than I anticipated because of Lachlan. If you took out the Lachlan factor,
then nothing.
I would have been absolutely correct about that one too.
Yeah.
It was blown out of proportion. Like Lachlan, it was still below wrestling when the rankings of deciding factor. But it was like Lachlan proved okay, there's even more than I thought there was to this, because I knew it's a huge world, unexplored in many ways, but it's even more unexplored than I originally thought. So, homework.
Yeah, so like you said, the leg locks before Lockie, there was maybe I think 3 heel hooks. John Blank had one. I think Craig Jones had one.
Yeah.
I think someone else had one, but that was about it.
When they consider all the matches going on, that's not a lot.
That's not a lot. Not a lot. Yeah, but then Lockie came in and heel hooked 3 people. But I think it was a different variation, right? So it's not necessarily the same leg lock game that was being played.
Yeah.
So everybody's already studied up on the old stuff. Oh, now we know this. But Lockie brought a little twist that not everybody was familiar with. So now I expect. Hopefully he's got a DVD coming out so that he can.
I'm sure
he can
will.
monetize it.
The DVD sells through the roof these days. It's 100%.
Right? Get that, son. And everybody's gonna have to evolve and learn this new format.
And that's the way it should be.
Yes.
And that's the real winner here is grappling, is jiu-jitsu, is the technical developments. That's the spectacle, and we got to keep it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Dave, I think that's it, man.
Yeah, I think so.
I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Share it with your friends. And, give us some feedback, too. I like criticism. I'm the kind of guy my friends better be critical of me. I'm no interest in having yes men around me. So if you guys got any advice, any suggestions, please let us know.
Yeah, you could comment on the videos or just send us an email. Hit us up on social media. And if you ever have any ideas of people you want to see or things you want us to talk about, again, we're open to taking those suggestions.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, guys.